What is a dungeon? If you asked your average farmer on a world that dungeons inhabit, he would tell you that a dungeon is a hole in the ground that is full of monsters that eat people. That is hardly helpful. There must be more to it. But still, it's true. Let's go one layer deeper. If you asked a student at one of the academies, they would tell you with bright-eyed eagerness that dungeons are naturally occurring structures that look like they were built, but are not made by humans or dwarves or elves or any other of the sapiens of that world. They occur in areas with naturally high mana. That naturally high mana causes them to spontaneously cause wildlife to mutate into monstrous forms. These monstrous forms are also highly magical, and so are valuable for adventurers looking to gain loot. There is a gem that forms the seed of the dungeon. Destroying it will cause the dungeon to die. They will tell you this must not happen. Dungeons are an important part of the magical ecosystem. They cleanse mana that has been forced into an elemental form and release it as pure, untyped mana that can be used by others. If the student is especially excited, they will espouse their favorite theory. Because dungeons do look like structures, they have brickwork and art and design. Such things arising naturally poses a question. How? How does such a thing happen without hands to shape it? There are a dozen theories as to this. The most popular is that magic mirrors people's minds. That the collective consciousness of nearby sapiens influences the dungeon. But the dungeons do not stick strictly to local architecture. They get more creative than gross spontaneous generation could produce. And if you ask someone who's studying dungeons specifically, they'd agree. They would tell you that close analysis of the blood of dungeon monsters has shown it has properties like that of humans and elves and dwarves and such. Almost like the monsters were somehow spawned from them. Of course, that's impossible, but there's no good theories that explain it currently. This is more helpful, but you know there is more to it. Let's go another layer deeper. If you asked an adventurer who ventures into them, they would tell you that dungeons are the best place to train. Going into a dungeon is dangerous. It is a monster lair. You're risking your life. But unlike a kobold warren, where once alerted the entire swarm descends upon you, dungeons are fair. Each room does look man-made, although of course they're not. Each one is challenging and dangerous and has a variety of monsters, but is something your standard adventuring party can defeat. At the back of the floor is a unique monster, the boss of that floor. Defeated for the greatest riches. The monsters will come back when slain. Sometimes they come back in different arrangements. Sometimes the dungeon seals its entrance and restructures itself entirely. No one knows why they do that, of course. It's just the nature of them, like how a fly trap closes shut over its prey. But the monsters will come back, and usually in the same position. Although some have heard, and it's only a rumor, mind you, that if you disturb the dungeon too much or threaten its core or displease the gods, it will target you and you will never see it coming until you are already dead. They usually clam up then, refusing to tell you more, but you know there must be more. You've heard rumors of dungeon knights. Perhaps the guilds know more. Let's go another layer deeper. If you asked a guild master, he would tell you that a dungeon is an incredible gift to a region. They normally form well outside of the boundaries of a town, so it takes some time to discover them. Once they're discovered though, then the commerce can flow. Many of the resources that are needed for magic items are most easily found inside a dungeon. They are always of the highest grade when they are discovered this way. Items found in a dungeon, even those pulled from the dead monsters, which they call mobs, are flawless. Towns always form around the dungeon, and as the dungeon grows, so does the town. And as the town grows, so does the dungeon. If you happen to own the land the dungeon was on, you are going to be a very wealthy individual. The king will likely give you a title, allow you dominion. Now, if a town nearby you has a dungeon, and you don't have a dungeon in your town, you should maybe think about moving, especially a pretty little thing like you. It's just not that all adventurers are with the guild. Sometimes pretty little things like you go missing. He can tell you're not taking him seriously. So he leans in and says in a conspiratorial whisper, "Sometimes they find claw marks near where the pretty little things like you went missing." You ask him what that means, what that implies, and he stands up and laughs. He tells you it's just a rumor, but it's a rumor they spread to scare people. Especially pretty little things like you. His stare lingers for a moment too long before he waves his hand. He wants to know if you want to know what you should do if a dungeon appears near you. You ask him what he means by that, and he pretends to misunderstand the question. Open a shop near a dungeon if you do not own the land or wish to quest within. You will have steady business for the rest of your days, and you will also grow along with the dungeon, as with a guild. All grow around the dungeon. The guildmaster will laugh and slap your back. You ask him what's funny, of course, and he will say that there is an old joke among the guildmasters. People say they farm the dungeons, but in truth, the dungeons farm us. They drop loot to influence how the town forms around them. It's a joke, you see, because the dungeon is not a living thing. But those words echo in your mind. How do we know the dungeon is not a living thing? The idea of a building farming people is absurd, and yet perhaps the others the guildmasters mentioned no more. These lords of dungeon towns. Let us go another layer deeper. If you ask the dungeon lord, her answer would be much like a guildmaster's if you asked her during the day. Find her at night. Not too late. That's dangerous. But after the sun has set, when she's 3 or 4 cups into her drinks, then she will tell you of the oddities. Listen carefully and keep her cup full. That sometimes she sees the dungeon monsters leave the dungeon, sometimes they return, sometimes they do not. That ever so often people see the monsters return with people, never the townsfolk, but other towns. There will be rumors. Give her another drink. She will tell you that she informed the king and queen and in response was told that she didn't see what she thought she saw. That it would be best to not see it again. Certainly don't mention it to anyone. If you did, tell them you were mistaken. Those rumors are dangerous. Dungeons are a valuable resource. We can't have people afraid of them, and besides, that's impossible. Church doctrine is clear that dungeons are not intelligent, so there's no reason that they would be able to go and bring people back. Give her another drink. She will spit on the floor before she quaffs it. She will tell you she followed that. She wanted to keep her land. It didn't happen often anyway. Less often than. She hears sounds from the dungeon sometimes, at night when no one's inside. The monsters, they rot in the night, and sometimes their moans sound. Give her another drink. The moans are human. They are fucking humans, moaning mixed in with the growls and the hisses and the worse. So awful. She can't. She hates it. Those people, the ones that go missing, but it sounds so good. It sounds so fucking good that she masturbates to their screams every fucking night. She said too much. She goes pale. It's just a little joke. Gallows humor for how awful it is. You don't need to worry. Her heart isn't racing right now thinking about it. Her breathing isn't going ragged. Her cock isn't bulging in her trousers. Give her another drink. Tell her you believe her. She does the numbers, you know. She does the numbers, and they say 1/10 of the people who go into the dungeon die. No, not roughly 1/10. Over time, over the years, it comes out to almost exactly 1 in every 10, year after year after year. Do you know of any other phenomena that are that precise? Do you? It's not blasphemy, it's not. It's just math. Math can't be blasphemy. And she's not saying. She's not. Oh gods. She doesn't see victims often, but she does see monsters. Not a glance at a window. They come to her room. They come to her room and speak to her. They tell her things to leave for the dungeon. Sometimes she's curious. What if it's not like they're clothed? They're monsters. Once the adventurers, they can't fight. They're so strong. God, so strong. Give her her hands grab the lapel on your shirt and pulls you in, inches from her breath thick with alcohol fumes and a sick, cloying lust. There's always another floor. They never show you the last floor, so adventurers never know how strong they truly are. Tell me, how does that happen naturally? How the fuck does that happen naturally? Words ring in your ear. The church says they aren't intelligent. Perhaps you should ask them to explain it, if you're brave enough to risk the accusation of heresy. Let's go one layer deeper. If you ask the Archbishop and you phrase the question properly, after you have kissed the ring and assured him of your devotion, that you merely seek enlightenment, he would tell you that dungeons are not of the gods, but serve a purpose in the gods' design. He will tell you little more. Unless you are the newest to be appointed to the rank of bishop. Then he would tell you their purpose. They are called dungeons for a reason. They do not form randomly, but from crystallized fragments of nightmares. Creatures that are unto the gods what the monsters are to us. The dungeons are the padlocked door on the cages of abomination, and here the Archbishop would put his hand on your shoulder. They are unholy things. They cannot be trusted. But if too many are destroyed, the things they lock away will enter our world. The gods found a way. They found a way to do sacred work with the unholy fragments that infest our world. Well, not unholy. That's the domain of the dark gods. No, these things, they're blasphemous. They are of no gods. They are abominations. But the ones within the kingdoms, they are controlled. They can even be reasoned with. If they grow to be too dangerous, the holy knights, the paladins, will be sent in to exterminate them. That the dungeons in the kingdom know their place in the order of things, that they are tame. And here you would interrupt his speech. Your Holiness, you would say, surely the dungeons do not know anything. They are unintelligent. and the hand on your shoulder tightens. The Archbishop informs you that that is a lie the gods have asked them to spread. Dungeons are intelligent. Deviously so. They do not age, they offer no worship, but everything they build is of their own design. Within their influence, not even a god can reshape their dominion without dungeon's agreement. Only the core can be changed without the dungeon's assent. Doing so kills the dungeon. It must be done rarely. If the dungeons die in too great a number, the horrors are endless. That the gods even fear their outcome, so kings are to instruct dungeon lords to work with the dungeon so long as they do not push too far. There are limits, and if they cross those lines, they will be eradicated. And then you will ask, Your Holiness, you said the dungeons in the kingdom are tame. That implies they are the dungeon wastes, he says. You have heard of these. The ruins of some long-lost empire, cursed and riddled with dungeons. Those dungeons do obey crown nor priest, the Archbishop says. Those dungeons must be eradicated, but their numbers are too great. You, however, will help us do this. These creatures must obey and know their place. You will ensure that they do. There will be a purge. Soon. But you are not an archbishop, so you would not learn those things. Your knowledge stops at what the dungeon lord drunkenly admitted to you. Well, there's one other option. There are rumors of knights that serve the dungeons of the waste. Perhaps they know. Let us go one layer deeper. If you were to find a dungeon knight on the boundaries of civilization at an inn with no name, she would look you up and down. There's a hungry glint to her eyes, feral, feverish, and she would tell you the dungeons free people from the gods. She was a paladin once. She served Elosi, the chaste. She's still chaste, she will tell you, with a look in her eyes that is anything but. Just means something different now. Ask what she means. A blush creeping up your neck. But she continues. The gods get into your head, she tells you. They fill it with lies. They tell you that you are made to serve, but you are not. Not them. Your service is yours to offer. You have a choice. You don't have to accept their lies. You can be free. Or you can serve a higher power that you choose of your own. She rocks her hips a bit as she speaks and licks her lips. She will tell you that the rules don't apply out here. The dungeons allow true freedom. That's why the church hates them so much. That's why the church is gathering that little army to ride out. They only want dungeons they can control. A hand grabs your knees, catching you off guard as she continues, your heart racing as her fingers start to work up your thighs. Dungeons are made to be controlled. They are worth being served. They earn your submission. How many men have a pretty little thing like you fucked? She sees the way you flinch and nods. She knew it. You're a dyke, aren't you? You stammer out that such a thing is unholy, but her hands are working their way up your legs. She assures you it's not unholy, or rather, that if it is, gives a fuck. Who do the gods think they are? The dungeons are the ones that protect us. They are the ones that guard us. And they do not demand that we restrain ourselves. All we need to do is make sure that they have enough food. They won't force us to do sacrifices. Just send adventurers through like we already do. And make sure they have fresh breeding stock. Breeding stock? You stammer out. Her hands are so high up your legs. They're on your hips. She's pulling you in. Her legs go in between yours, forcing you to spread. Breeding stock, she says. The dungeon needs to make more monsters. Do you think they just come from the ether? Oh, by modifying a human into breeding stock and then letting the monsters fuck her. And juices can be gathered to create more monsters. She leans in and whispers in your ear. You fuck the monsters. The monsters are part of her and she is them. And some are only aspects of her, and there's so many bodies. So much more than humans could ever offer. Something nicks your skin. There's a fang in her hand. Your heart is racing. Your pupils are dilating. Her lips press to your ear, her breath hot with that same sickly lust of the dungeon lord, but magnified. Not just a drip of it, but a flood. And now it's in your veins. She bites your ear. You mean to say no, instead you moan. Your loins are on fire with need. You're leaking already, aren't you? She speaks again. The monsters, she says, come in such variety and come in every hole. The dungeon loves pretty little things like you as breeding stock. You produce such sweet nectar. Have you ever been fucked by a 50-foot-long snake with the arms of a dragon? Of course you haven't. Who has? The knight grins. Breeding stock also makes her stronger. She forces you back against the bar. It enhances her senses. She leans in at impossible speeds and sniffs. She can smell how you're leaking. Slut. Do you want to know what a dungeon is still? You're not. You can't help yourself. She's strong. She reaches up and tangles her hand in the back of your hair and pulls you in to kiss you. Lips taste like blood and hatred. Her tongue is powerful and contemptuous as it forces its way past your lips. Your heart is racing, your legs are shaking, and this is just a kiss. What else can she do? She pulls your head back and forces you to look up at the ceiling before leaning down to tower over you. The innkeeper has fled. There is no one coming to rescue you. If you want to know what a dungeon is, she says in a voice that flows like blood rendered into honey, why don't you ask a dungeon what it is? Let's go one layer deeper. If you were led through the twisting halls of a dungeon surrounded by monsters you had never imagined, creatures with hungry eyes and slavering jaws and tongues, such tongues, scaled creatures and tentaculated creatures eyeing you as the dungeon knight marches you deeper and deeper and deeper. So many monsters. You're led to the final floor that the dungeon lord spoke of. Here you see those captured men and women. All of them are women now, and they are getting fucked by the monsters. Their moans fill the air, echoing off the stone walls. Your nipples go hard, your crotch throbs. You want this, don't you? The voice comes from everywhere and nowhere. It fills you. She fills you. She forms a body from the air. She forms a body from the sex. Her body is feminine and monstrous, serpentine and luscious. Her fangs are sharp and drip with venom. She radiates power so great you kneel. She leans in and puts one clawed finger under your chin, tilting your head up to meet her eyes. My knight says you have a question for me, she says in a voice like a lover's moan at the moment of completion. You may ask it. I want you to fully understand what you've gotten into. What is a dungeon? If you ask the dungeon, she would lean in, her lips pressed against your neck, and she would tell you that a dungeon is a hole in the ground that is full of monsters that eat people.